Hi besties and welcome to my channel. My name is Tanner and this is my Esoterica, where I aim to bring you guys comfort and guidance from a place of comfort, my bed. This is going to be the second video in our big question series, our Tarot Talk with Tanner, where we kind of ask Tarot Spirit these big kind of philosophical questions and see what comes out. If you haven't seen the last video, I will put something up here to link you guys to it. That one, we explored what the meaning of life is, and we thought, or I thought, the royal we, I thought that was very interesting, the answer that came out. And so, continuing along with that theme, today's question is going to be, what happens when we die, or what happens after we die to us, to our spirits? Where do we go? What happens after? All that sort of stuff. So if you guys like this kind of stuff, I would love it if you'd like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And if you guys have any ideas for any sort of big questions you'd like me to ask Spirit, that you would like to dive into, or just, get some more insight on, please drop them in the comments, because I am also very interested in these things. And yeah, so how this reading will go is we will pull a wisdom of the oracle, a wisdom of, yes, I was going to say spirit, but no. We're going to pull a wisdom of the oracle card to just kind of get a little bit of clarity around our question of the day. We'll talk about that. I'll read from the guidebook a little bit. Then we will do a 3-card tarot pull, where we'll just dive into that message that the oracle card was giving us a little bit deeper. We'll talk about those. We'll clarify each of those cards with an additional 2 cards from a different tarot deck. Dive into things a little bit deeper. And then we'll close off the reading with one final channeled message from Spirit in the form of a Sacred Creator's Oracle card. Pretty good at just kind of like giving a final summation, or just like one final parting piece of advice, or, that sort of vibe. So I've pre-shuffled all of these decks, so you guys don't have to watch me do all of that on camera. But yes, so again, today's question: what happens after we die? What happens after we die? Thank you, Spirit. What happens to us after we die? Peace. I mean, that seems pretty obvious, right? That makes a lot of sense. Well, so, life is pretty tumultuous for a lot of us. Very few of us have easy, go with the flow, everything works out super easily with no conflicts ever kind of life, right? We all deal with trials and tribulations. Again, referencing the meaning of life video that we did, to help you kind of come into the highest version of yourself. So it seems like after we pass away, after our spirit leaves this, mortal coil, we finally find peace. You see that little dove up there too. But let's read from the book. Peace is number 23. So peace, freedom from attachment, and radical acceptance. So the oracle's message here is, it doesn't get any better than this. A quiet mind, a heart fulfilled, freedom from want, and the soul's satisfaction. The way to peace is through radical acceptance. Everything in your world is exactly as it should be. Harmony is beautiful. Enjoy it. So yeah, I mean, it seems like when we die, we finally get to experience full relinquishment of attachment to the material world, to, all of the things that have kept us tied down for our lives as humans. And we finally get, to experience peace. We just get to breathe a little bit, which sounds really nice to me right about now, with the state the world is in. But yeah, very interesting. So far, what happens after we die? Peace, relinquishment from attachment, and just, living in the harmony of all that there is. So thank you, Spirit. Let's dive deeper into this piece with a 3-card tarot pull. So what happens after we die, Spirit? What happens after we die? Thank you. What happens after we die? Thank you, Spirit. What happens after we die? Okay, so those cards all popped out real quick. We got the High Priestess, the first card that came out. The Four of Cups is the second card that came out. And then we got the Ten of Pentacles, which is the last card that came out. So the High Priestess is all about kind of spiritual knowledge, right? And gaining spiritual knowledge. It's also about, just being connected to the divine, just kind of innately, right? And the High Priestess is also can be kind of secretive and kind of, tight-lipped about things. So after we die, that this card in the context of that question, one, I feel like we learn or we remember sort of all the spiritual knowledge, right? Because that's what the High Priestess represents as well, that we forget while we're here on Earth. So we kind of, get that memory back. We get all that spiritual knowledge and understanding back about what it all was for. Trying to see if I can pick up anything else from this. I mean, this is divine feminine spiritual energy as well. Kind of acceptance and an understanding of how things go and how they are. But yeah, the biggest thing that jumped out to me with this card so far is just the spiritual knowledge. So after we die, we gain or we remember some sort of spiritual knowledge here. The next card that came out was the Four of Cups, and this card is all about sort of like ruminating on things and like dwelling in a way. Like this guy on the card is looking at all the things, all the cups he has in front of him. He's not looking very, happy necessarily about it. He's really contemplative and, thinking and assessing things. And he's so focused on this, he can't see the other opportunity that the universe is trying to, offer him. So what I get from this card, I should say, is that we go through some sort of period of reflection after we pass away. And if you guys have watched any sort of like near-death experiences or anything like that, a lot of people talk about having life reviews where they, sit with their spirit guides and they just kind of review all the big things in their life, all of the close people that they've affected and they've been, connected to. They go through big moments where they maybe affected somebody in a certain way and they have to like really sit with and feel how they affected another person, another living thing. So I feel like this is what this card is kind of talking about. We go through a period where we, sit and review. And I don't want to say dwell because as spirits, we're not really going to dwell on much, I don't think, unless you, become a ghost and have some sort of unfinished business or something. But that's neither here nor there. So what this card is saying, we go through a period of reflection after we pass away. So far we have gaining spiritual knowledge or regaining spiritual knowledge, a period of reflection where we, and it's emotional reflection as well because these are cups, it's not swords where you're thinking about it, it's cups where you're feeling it. And then the last thing that came out was the Ten of Pentacles. This is all about legacy and building legacy and building something substantial for your descendants or for whoever comes after you to kind of, reap the rewards of it, of the work that you've done, right? So I feel like, this is talking about legacy more than anything else. So after we pass away, you know, we we also get to enjoy the fruits of our labor, right? The Ten of Pentacles, that's the last card in the suit, right? Before the page and the knight and the king and the queen. I forget what they're called. But so this is like the end of the pentacles. So this is the end of like physical um pain. This is the end of physical um you know yearning and wanting, because you have everything you need materially, right? So yeah, what I get from this card is, not only are you building or setting the foundation for the people are who might come after you in the real world, right? Like, if you have a will and stuff, like, yes, very literally, that's what this means. But what I really get from it, again, is the legacy aspect of it, and enjoying the fruits of what you pass down, or letting your descendants enjoy what you pass down. If that makes sense, it might not. But yeah, I mean, this old guy is sitting here, reflecting on his life and all the decisions he's made. He's the one that put in the work for this tower to be built, this castle to be built, these walls to be built. So I think, again, it's after we die, of course, there's a period of reflection, but there's also a period of like celebrating all of the work that you did while you were in the physical. And yeah, legacy. That's what I get from this card more than anything else. At the moment, I'm not going to try to dwell on it too much because we'll get a little more insight when we clarify here in a second. So yeah, we'll just jump straight into the clarifiers here. Thank you, Spirit. Can I please clarify all of these cards to get a better understanding of what you're trying to tell us? Can I please further clarify this High Priestess for what happens after we die? The Nine of Swords and the Knight of Swords. Very interesting. Okay. What about this Four of Cups? Can we please further clarify this Four of Cups? Ooh, that one came out fast. One more, please. Please further clarify this Four of Cups. Okay. The Ten of Swords and the Seven of Wands. Interesting. A lot of swords. So I feel like there is a lot of kind of mental energy on the other side. Or a lot of reflection. Anyways. Thank you, Spirit. Can we please further clarify this Ten of Pentacles? Please further clarify this Ten of Pentacles for what happens after we die. Thank you, Spirit. One more card. What happened, or further clarify this Ten of Pentacles. Oh my goodness. There we go. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So, clarifying the High Priestess here for what happens after we die. We have the Nine of Swords and the Knight of Swords. A lot of swords just came out. So, but looking at this right away, I sense that, or I get the sense that when it comes to this kind of spiritual knowledge or this remembering or this reconnecting with spirit, there's also, you know, this kind of, it's interesting because the Nine of Swords is all about feeling anxious, right? Thoughts that keep you up at night, nightmares, anxiety, fear, those sorts of things. So I feel like, again, the high priestess is like spiritual knowledge, it's divine feminine energy, it's accepting what is, it's knowing the truth behind what is also. So I feel like perhaps this is saying like you discover the truth behind your suffering, right? All the things that have kept you feeling, anxious and depressed and sad in your real life, or in your human life, in your physical life. So it's like uncovering the knowledge behind why those things had to happen. And it's not letting the fear really hold you back from forward movement in progression, right? Because the Knight of Swords is all about ambition. It's all about fast forward movement. It's all about, you know, thinking, because the Knight of Swords is the heir of the heirs. Um, if you study tarot, there's a whole um, thing about it. How each of the page, the knight, the king, and the queen, they all are two elements, and the knights are the heir of their element. So they are the mental, the swift, the just, the truthful, etc., of their suit. So the Knight of Swords, here, I'll show you. Right here, where does it say? There it is. It says it's heir of air. I'm sure, there we go. But all of that to say, you know, it's like charging forward and addressing and learning about the things that have kept you tied down in life. Like charging forward and charging through them so you can learn something from them as you settle into the other side, or whatever happens, after that. So yeah, overall, I feel like you get the truth about why things had to go the way that they went, perhaps, in an effort to help you charge through them and charge past them so you can overcome them. When it comes to this Four of Cups, it was clarified by the Ten of Swords and the Seven of Wands. So not only do we learn the truth about why we suffer so we can surpass it, I feel like we also kind of ruminate and really, really go over the painful lessons that we've learned in our lives, and how we overcome them. Because the Seven of Wands is perseverance, right? It's putting up a fight. It's continuing to fight and defend what's yours. The Ten of Swords is the ending of painful cycles. In some ways, it's feeling like being betrayed or backstabbed. But if you look at this guy's hand here, he's making the same gesture of blessing that the Hierophant is on his card. So what seems like a really painful ending is actually really a blessing in disguise. And, things look bleak and dark, but there's a new day dawning in the background here. So I feel like, on the other side, we ruminate, or we go over, we think about all the painful cycles we've gone through, perhaps pain we've inflicted on others, um, things we've had done to us. We really examine those things, and we kind of keep fighting. We find reasons to keep fighting through, or things to, you know, other things to keep fighting for, if that makes sense. So, like, we're ruminating on the painful things that happen to us, right? Um, Painful endings that teach us valuable lessons. And we also, ruminate on our strength and our perseverance and our ability to keep going with the Seven of Wands here. yeah, here it says challenge, competition, protection, perseverance, defense, and maintaining control. So like perhaps we, ruminate and think about how well we were able to maintain control when we are faced with painful situations in our living situations. Ooh. And just, how much were we able to rise to the challenge of overcoming these painful cycles that we've maybe have gotten trapped in or had gotten trapped in while we were on this side, right? So yeah, overall, I get the sense that we think and ruminate and go over painful cycles and how we rose to meet them. With the Ten of Pentacles here, it was clarified by the Knight of Pentacles and then the King of Swords. So, Knight of Pentacles, he is the most dedicated, most grounded, stable, um, slow and steady wins the race kind of knight. In the tarot, he's the only knight that isn't actually moving forward in his picture. He's actually standing completely still. And he really is the knight of hard work and dedication. Really goes pretty well with this Ten of Pentacles energy, this kind of, you know, reaping the rewards of all your hard work, of a lifetime of hard work. Um, and this is saying that, like, the work that we do in life, you know, is stuff that takes time to learn and master and accomplish. It's not something that, you can't master all the lessons that you probably came here to in a day. That's why it takes a lot of us, 60, 70, 80 years, if we're lucky, to really get the full experience and get to, go through pain and suffering and anxiety so we can, persevere and fight and overcome and charge through them. So yeah, with this 10, it's celebrating all the hard work that went into living. And it's also like with the King of Swords, this is mastery, right? This is stepping into power, authority, you know, taking care of others, using the lessons that you've learned to help inspire other souls, perhaps, to step up and embody their highest self with the King of Swords here. Right here, it says head over heart, discipline, truthful, honest, mental clarity, and authority. So, after we die, right, we celebrate all the legacy of our lives. We go over all of the ways that we've helped others, hurt others, the way we've persevered, the way we've overcome, all the hard work, right, that we've done. All of that hard work to learn how to step into our power and into our authority, um, into our truth as well. Swords in the tarot represent truth. Justice has a sword. Um, and also the King and Queen of Swords have swords also. And they're very truthful and direct and honest in their approach, how they deal with others. So yeah, we do the work, we bask in the legacy of it, we do the hard work, and we step into our power. That's what I get from that at the end of the day. So, sorry, I'm just trying to see if there's anything else I can say about this before we get to our closing message. I hope I made sense with that Ten of Pentacles. I feel like I'm missing something here with it. I don't want to like kill myself over it. Because yeah, the 10 is all about building legacy. Like I've said a million times, it's about, putting in a lifetime's worth of effort and sitting back after it's all said and done, and looking at how your actions have affected others, how your actions have paved the way for others, how you've acted inspires others. So I feel like all of that is involved in this 10 of Pentacles energy when we go to the other side. Um, and then again with the Knight, this is all about the hard work and dedication that goes into being a good person, into building a legacy that people want to look to inspire them to keep going. And this could be people who stay on the physical after we pass away, but also spirits that travel with you and into your lives as well, that learn and grow and change as a result of you learning and growing and changing. And then yeah, again, stepping into our power, you know inspiring others through leadership and action, and embodying our full selves, not taking any, you know prisoners, or not really worrying about what others think, because kings, royalty doesn't really care what other people think. They just kind of live in their power, in their truth, in their authenticity, and just let that ride with them. So I feel like, yeah, all of that happens too. Like, we review our legacy, we review all of our hard work, and how we stepped into our power, and how all of our actions affected the people who were around us when we were alive. There, I feel better about that description of it. But okay, so we're going to go ahead and get into our final little channeled message here, um, and then we'll end the reading there. Um, Thank you guys again for sticking around this long. If you have, I hope something in there rang true for you or was of interest to you. And then, yeah, if it was, again, please like, share, comment, subscribe. If you guys can think of any other big questions you'd like me to dive into, please let me know. I would love the help. And yeah, we'll go ahead and pull your final message, the final channeled message from Spirit. What happens after we die? Thank you, Spirit. One final message for what happens after we die. The now. Very interesting, because this also came out with our last big question: what is the meaning of life? So what happens after we die is the now. It's interesting because, if you have, again, watched any sort of near-death experiences or anything like that, people talk about how time doesn't really exist, right? How the past, the present, and the future, are all happening at one time. So it's interesting that, like, when we pass, right, I feel like everything becomes the now, because there is no time anymore. There is no sense of past, present, and future. It all just becomes one thing. We'll read from the book too, but that is what happens after we die, the now. That's our final little parting message here. Let's see what it says. Ooh, I pulled the wrong book. I was like, that's not what that says. Okay, 47. The now. Okay. So the essential meanings of the now are being in the right place at the right time, divine timing, a sense of time speeding up as you move forward towards your dream, a reminder that time is on your side. So time is always on your side. The universe has brought you right here, right now. So be here now. Nothing else is tangible. You cannot change the past, and you can only change the future by making changes today. Your now is always the only moment when you can actively inspire change. So go ahead and hunker down and take a moment to enjoy a few full, deep breaths. Notice the wonderful life you have already started creating and trust that you have all the time you need. When you stop seeing time as something to work against, change can happen in the blink of an eye. Things shift quickly when you are aligned with the divine. Your miracle will flow into your life in perfect arrangement, so begin to act in a way that shows trust in its arrival. Bathe your present day in the experience of your success instead of looking to the far off future to finally realize your dream. So, yeah, I think, once we pass, we are just constantly existing in the now. We're just fully present. We're not really worrying about the past. We're not really worried about the future. We're just kind of fully engaged, fully aware of the processes of the universe, and fully, part of them. That's what I get from with the now for this. It's very interesting that, again, this showed up twice with these kind of big kind of meaning of life or what happens with life questions. So, don't worry about death if you are, and that's why you're watching this video. Focus on the now. Um, but know that, when we do pass, there's a sense of peace and tranquility, a releasement of attachment here. We discover the truth behind our suffering and we learn to overcome it. We spend time going over the things that have hurt us or that how we hurt others perhaps, and how we rose to meet those challenges and overcome them. And we kind of go over the legacy that we leave for the people in our lives. How did we affect those we came into contact with? How did we um, grow and evolve and change? How did we get from point A to point B? What was our life journey? All the hard work that we put into building something lasting or of importance while we're here. And that helps us step into our power, ultimately, knowing the truth of who we are, knowing our boundaries, knowing, how to stand up for ourselves, knowing how to stand up for others, and live fully authentically in our truth. And, the now is once we get to the other side, everything becomes the now. We don't worry about the past, we don't worry about the future. We just fully exist and engage and live in the present moment, which is all the time, since time is not real. But anyways, yes, that is our reading for today. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. All right, take care.